Hey, do you know the Fireside song?
I didn't know there was a Fireside song.
Oh, yeah.
Let's hear it.
It goes, welcome to the fireside. Party people gonna blow your mind. That part's different every time. You know what's funny?
I don't like it.
Huh?
It's still in progress, right?
It's still in progress.
Okay, good.
So Howard Stern gets like 400 new songs every single day. And we surely have as many followers as Howard Stern, I would think. We never get...
Yeah, you need some musicians out there to put
Why
together
does no
something.
one finish the Fireside song?
Well, let's do it.
Come on, guys. Finish the Fireside song. Is that little camera on me? Okay. Finish the Fireside song. Party people going to blow your minds. You can erase that part and do something new.
Make it a contest. Send something in. If we choose your song.
What do you get?
T-shirt.
Yeah, we have T-shirts.
And your songs played on
A hat.
And you can be played on the premier podcast
And
and all of tattooing, except for the other tattooing podcast.
You could say their name on the podcast.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, finish the song, people.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Fireside. Hey, I'm here with Adam Shaw. This is the Fireside Tattoo Podcast, the official podcast of the Tattoo Improvement Network. Go to Fireside. Nope, don't go to Fireside Tats. That's gone. Go to tattooimprovement.com. Sign up for our mailing list, and you will know where we're going before I know where we're going. That's not true. No. So Adam, you guys, if you followed the show for a while, you'll already recognize because this third time on the show. He was on one of the very first shows that was probably pretty bad. Do you remember it being pretty bad?
It was bad. It was really bad. I think
content-wise, it was probably fine.
I remember a really bad guest. That one.
You were a bad guest on that one? Yeah. Well, did you look? Did you stare at the ground the whole time?
Probably.
Yeah.
Or mumbled or something.
Yeah, most likely. Yeah, I don't know what to do with my hands.
Where am I putting my hands? Yeah.
Hold on. All right. So Adam and I have we've spent a lot of time together the last year or so. We've been drawing a lot together. We get together most Wednesday nights. I can't make it this Wednesday. I'm solo with a kid, but every other Wednesday.
What?
Yeah, Emily's going out of town, and
I have a really good model that.
Oh, is it one of the CrossFit models?
Yeah.
Is it really?
It is.
Oh, son of a bitch.
She does the agro. No.
Oh,
the
I haven't seen that
yoga
one. Yeah,
thing.
I know who you're talking about.
Acrobatic yoga.
All right.
That's what she does.
Okay.
It's a thing. It's an actual thing.
Yeah. No, I've seen. All right. Let me see what I can do. Scott, can you babysit? You're going to the class.
Right. Yeah. Everyone's invited.
Everyone's coming. Okay.
Well, bring Max, and we'll just set him up with some crayons.
Okay, we could do that.
He can watch video in the other room.
That's a possibility. I guess we could do that. All right. Anyway, so we got way off topic. So Adam and I, we've been doing a lot of drawing and painting together the last year or so, and I wanted to bring him in for a couple of reasons. We've had. You guys are probably sick of me regurgitating this, but we've had a lot of people asking about developing their style within tattooing, and it's been kind of a common issue that both our viewers and our guests have had. And so I thought of Adam first off because he is really good at making a few marks and describing something really easy, like with the very few marks describing a form really quickly. And I think that's important because the more that you can break something down to the bare bones and still get the point across, the more kind of freedom you have when you start adding stuff. You're not trying to add so many tricks on the front end. You're like, when you truly understand something, you can describe the form quickly, and then you can decide after the form has been described, you can decide like what you do to enhance it or to push it or to to control it or change the mood and all those kinds of things. So that's the main reason I wanted to bring you back on today. So let's talk just for a second. Let's start with like I mentioned, we've been doing some life drawing. You've done a lot of life drawing over the years, meaning like from life, models from life. And then you also invent a lot for these. You do a lot of pulp fiction kind of covers for novels. You do a lot of comic work, like painterly comic work. So you're forced to kind of, or you choose to kind of invent a lot of things, but you're drawing on a base of knowledge that you get from drawing from life, right?
Right. Yep. I just try to keep practicing, at it. And I mean, that's, you described the technique that I'm really trying to hone, and that's, describing a form as quickly and with, a few brush marks. It's always interesting to me.
To try to do it as quickly. I know you, whether it's paint or whether it's charcoal, your technique is really similar, and we'll be dropping images in on top of this video, where you can use a combination of you'll describe something real loosely with line, and then you'll come in and you'll drop, you'll turn say the vine charcoal on its side, and you'll drop just a shadow shape in that turns the shape of the arm. It turns it real quickly, and it looks like effortlessly. But what do you have any tips about what you're thinking whenever you're kind of blocking in masses that way?
You just have to look at it as masses, groups of values.
Right.
Whether it's standing back or squinting a little bit, you have to kind of put things into groups. And if you have a larger mass of light, then you treat it all as one area, but then later you can go back and add a little, a little bit more charcoal or whatever it is, whatever the medium you're working with. Like you said, sometimes I'll just lay in masses with a certain value, and then go in with an eraser to get the other shape. Once you have those larger shapes worked out, then you can go in and adjust them.
So we talked before about working general to specific, and that's basically what that is. You're really trying to group masses, like light masses and dark masses, together, almost like only two things, dark and light, and then building from that.
Yeah, I usually approach a drawing or a painting that way. I'll go with a light mass and a medium to dark mass, and then you start to work in the smaller, more subtle areas.
So when you're thinking when we're drawing from life, we're only drawing, a single person. But say when you're inventing these pulp, these covers for these pulp books or these sci-fi books or whatever they are, and there's an entire composition. When you're thinking in masses, are you thinking this figure is a light mass, this figure is a dark mass, this ground is you're generalizing it even. You're not picking out masses within an individual figure to start. You're trying to start as simple as possible. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm usually on the compositional sketches I do for a cover or something. It's definitely you have to work out where your light is, where your dark is. Your figure generally will be, unless it's an unusual composition, it's usually your figure is one value shape.
Uh-huh.
And then your background is a value shape, and then maybe another mass or something.
Yeah, but you're always trying to think light, medium, dark, or whatever from a compositional standpoint first.
Absolutely, yeah. And it takes a lot of thumbnails as well.
Okay.
So
working you use a lot of thumbnail drawings to try to work out compositions.
Yeah, I've got sketchbooks full of thumbnails to just work out one composition.
Yeah. And I know we've mentioned it before on the show, but I do that a lot with whenever I'm drawing to a space. Like if I'm drawing, say, for a sleeve, I try to just think of almost abstract shapes first, and not even that much about what the imagery is. I just think about all right, I'm looking at this blank arm. What areas do I want to be dark? What do those areas look like? What do I want to be like? And I kind of try to break it up and make it look different than it looked the last time that I designed a sleeve. And then I guess I have in my head what the images are to some extent, but I'm not trying to draw those images. I'm trying to draw dark and light masses that kind of look appealing to me on the arm, and then build to the images. Mm-hmm. And that's basically what you're doing with with comic covers or with book covers or with
Yeah, sometimes the image or the narrative does inform
what you're
what
doing. Yeah.
needs to happen.
Yeah.
But I mean, sometimes I'll just have an idea like, I really want to do a dark figure with a light background or something that will, something like I'll catch a cover of something else, magazine or something that I thought was really powerful, and it was like, I'd like to try that out.
Yeah.
So that sometimes that informs it, but sometimes the story, whatever they tell me to paint, is telling me what I need to focus on the composition.
So we were talking about people struggling to find a style within tattooing or within whatever medium. I mean, painters are always trying to find their voice as painters, or illustrators, or people are always influenced by artists that they look up to, and you're always walking that line of like, I don't want to copy the people that I'm looking at, but I want to do something in their genre, but I want to have my own voice within it. And so the reason I bring this up is because really, if we strip it down, it comes down, whatever your style is, it comes down to just those few things. It comes down to like shape and composition, relationships, right? However you describe that, like how shapes interact with each other, values, edges, right? Like whether we have hard lines or diffused lines or whatever.
Sure.
And then color, I guess, being kind of last in that. Would you say that other stuff is more of a foundation than color?
I would. For me,
Yeah.
A color is a thought after composition.
And value.
But, I think there are artists that work differently.
Yeah. Some artists you think that maybe put the colors in their forethought, like
they might have an idea of what they really, whatever the narrative or the idea informs them. Like I really need to. I don't know. It's different. I think if you have an idea about composition, so a lot of times the color does play a big role in it, in emphasizing what you're doing. But certainly, I think value might be higher on that list.
Don't you? I've always kind of had the opinion, or I won't say always, because I used to think that color was the answer to everything, and I never made anything good. But I feel like if you nail value, that you almost can't mess color up. You can make decisions that affect the mood, but if your values are right, your color will probably be okay. Is that true?
Because I think you can even start out a composition monochromatically, but still have the values in this great contrast, and have an amazing piece, that's impactful color-wise. And then if you need to go in and adjust some of the chromatic ranges within your color piece, then you can always do that.
Right. So I guess the main point is that people that are looking to find their style within tattooing or within painting or illustration or whatever it is, that style kind of already exists. There are marks that they make that are kind of genuine to them, and it's just really a matter of getting a good grasp of those underlying fundamentals of shape and value and color and edges, and learning how to apply them in a way that makes sense to them. And don't you think that if you do that, if you work towards those things first, that your own style will kind of grow organically from that?
Yes, that's how I did it. That's how most of the artists I know do it. So I would say yes, that's pretty universal. But there may be artists that
make their living copying other artists.
Or something. There's those.
There's those.
But I think looking at other artists and maybe doing some master copies can always help. But
We'll talk for a second about some of the the studies that are some of the exercises that might help to that. We were talking a couple of weeks ago about something that I rarely do, but we were looking at a book, drawing what you want to see or something, drawing things that you want to see. I forget what it was called, but they were talking about contour drawing and letting foreground and background elements kind of fall together where they do, like maybe the open side of a foot falls into the chair that it's next to or something like that. Do you use any of those types of exercises to help you compositionally, to help you from a line standpoint? Are there any value study exercises that you think would help our listeners or viewers to explore those things, whether it's line, value, composition, anything?
Line, I don't do a lot of kind of contour line drawing like that. I probably should, and I would.
Yeah, I don't either.
It interests me. Maybe I need to get into that. Most of the, I think what's helped me in terms of doing value studies is the whole idea of generalizing a value and making it a shape on its own,
Yes.
So just doing studies like, on this study, I'm going to just keep in a 1 to 5 grayscale value range and then just stick with that, that keeps your brain kind of thinking, okay, that's this one and that, it's so, the painting itself or the drawing could come out, usually comes out looking a bit like, a color by number type of thing, but it forces you to recognize values, where they go, what families these values work in, and, sometimes they're interesting paintings too.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. I like that. I've always noticed that about outside of just the kind of gestural mark making that you have that describes the form real well. I do like even in some of your larger paintings, and you've done some really large scale stuff, that you're bold enough to kind of like simplify a giant shape. Whereas if I was facing a shape that was as big as me, I would be overwhelmed by the need to like render it to the fullest extent. And you're fine. I'm thinking of some of like your underwater paintings that you did years ago where you just had these big, massive, dark shapes that receded, and they worked really well. And they really work well from across the room. But when I walk all the way up to them, if they were mine, I would want to like paint them, render them fully. And so I think it takes a certain amount of discipline to be able to like leave something as a general shape and let it support the shape that's near it or whatever you've established within that composition.
Yeah, I usually have the opposite problem where I'll just leave a shape and I'll have to force myself to go, no, you can't just leave it like that. You need to go in and add something, don't. But yeah, there's definitely a play with that.
Yeah. Yeah. What are, as far as some of the stuff that you bring from your life drawing to the things that you're inventing? When you're inventing a composition, say a space girl with a ray gun shooting a alien, what are you drawing from? How are you building that from the ground up?
Well, I do know a space girl from the 23rd century. She comes to visit me.
Perfect.
Every Sunday afternoon. No,
good.
I
she looks good in the outfit, I'll have to say.
Yeah, she's super hot.
Yeah.
Let me tell you. No, I definitely anatomy is a huge factor. I mean, I'm drawing these characters in certain settings, so I'm I have to remember what I learned in drawing from life all the time.
And you don't always have models to set in that particular pose.
No, and I mean I do sometimes take pictures of models, but they may not have exactly the anatomy I need, or maybe of course or I need their arm in a little different way or something to hold.
You're constantly inventing.
Yeah.
Those types
So
of things.
I'm remembering back to anatomy or whatever, and just looking at anatomy so much and drawing that I can, luckily I have the skill and the knowledge to add that.
Draw from it.
Yeah.
And you're really thinking, when you break it down into the simplest terms, you're thinking of very basic shapes. You're thinking of spheres or cylinders or something like in an arm. You're thinking of like breaking them down into very simple shapes and then kind of reconstructing them into something believable.
Yeah, I mean, they have to. I mean, there's one thing to remember a muscle or something, but you also have to know, well, the light source is over here, and this is generally a cylinder, the forearm, so I need to add the light appropriately.
Yeah.
And, otherwise it won't make sense in space.
Yeah. And so the same thing when it gets away from human anatomy and into some of the like kind of creatures or even some of the backgrounds and things like that, it's the same approach or no?
Yeah, sometimes it's the same approach. I mean, like when you're inventing monsters or, I think Leonardo said that the best imaginary creatures are, based in creatures we know about in nature.
Right.
So, if like a dragon, you look at dog anatomy or something, it's not, just start with something.
Dog anatomy for a dragon?
Well, or
lizard anatomy? No.
Well, no, I've seen some. I mean, you check out some
Really?
dragons. There's some, yeah.
With some dog anatomy?
Yeah,
of dragons?
I'll show you some.
The left dragon looks like a big dog.
What does?
Falcor from Neverending Story.
Oh, you're right. Never-ending story dragon. Yeah. Huh. Yeah,
I think
didn't think about that.
I think Smog looked less like a lizard and more like. I think of a lizard as like close to the ground.
Yeah, dragons don't have arms that are back like that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I stand corrected. I would have looked to lizards for dragons.
Well, you could. I mean, a lot of artists do different things, and that's my point was just you do draw from what you study in nature.
Yeah.
I mean, that always gives it just an element of reality.
And we've talked before about how people, whether they're artists or whether they aren't, if they can see, if they're humans with eyeballs that work, they know when something isn't right because they know what light does with objects. Mm-hmm. And when it's not believable, when you're literally inventing something that can't exist, even the most uninformed person will look at it and go like, that ain't right.
Yeah,
that's not
right.
the way that should look.
Yeah.
So to your point, it always helps whether you're looking at dogs or lizards to have some kind of reference to draw from.
Well, yeah, you have to, think of maybe animal anatomy informs how a dragon may, look, how its wings muscles should work, or so you have to add a little bit of fantasy and imagination, of course, but you're working from this idea that these muscles, these types of limbs or something need to be moved somehow by some muscle that wraps around here, and like a large cat or a dragon or a
How much time have you spent studying anatomy and not just looking at figures? Do you spend a lot of time looking at anatomy books and understanding what moves what where? I know some artists that like live by it and they can name every.
Oh yeah,
like when they're painting ears, they're like, and has this they use all the terms for like the turn of the ear and all that.
Right. Yeah. No, I don't know all the terms. I need to do that. We should do that.
We should.
We'll do a class where
everybody away at the drawing night.
Well, I have that cool sculpture in my studio, and it has, all the muscles played out, and then they give you this poster reference.
Oh.
I got it from
we should
Anatomy Tools.
Yeah, I looked at that website after you introduced me to it.
Yeah.
That's really cool. That we should pick 2 different areas, memorize the areas, and then critique each other's drawings on our drawing night in front of everybody, and they'll be like, those are the 2 smartest people I've ever met.
That sounds good.
Yeah, let's do that.
Now pay us.
Right. We'll teach you more. But we have to look at the poster.
Cheat sheet.
Right. What I lost my train of thought completely. Go back. We haven't
Anatomy?
talked anatomy. Yeah, we talked a lot about composition as far as building shapes that have like kind of an assigned value. They're either in the dark family, the light family, the medium family, and but we didn't tackle a lot of line and edges, and that's one thing that we get all the questions about from a tattoo standpoint. As far as when you're building a composition, let's just take one of the sci-fi novels or something like that. Do you have just a standard formula where like everything in the foreground has sharp edges and they get softer as they go back, and then it's real painterly in the background?
Yeah, well, that's a general rule, but I think it depends on what you want to, get across, or what's happening in the scene or whatever. I think if you really want an object to pop, it needs to have a sharp edge. If you want an object to kind of slowly move out of atmosphere, then a softer edge is needed, and just keep those ideas in the back of your head when you're designing something.
Yeah.
I think that would apply to tattooing, right?
I think so, but I don't think enough people use it. I think it's rarely used properly. My phone's going crazy. I think it's rarely used properly. I think a lot of times people just kind of outline the outer shape of the flower real thick, and then that's the end of it. But one thing that I don't mess with enough that I would like to, Casey Ball put out a drawing just today on his Instagram, which will be weeks ago by the time you guys see this. But he put out a nice little charcoal drawing where someone's kind of lying this way, maybe their arm is up, and then one arm is in the immediate foreground, and the arm that's in the immediate foreground is almost an abstract shape. You almost would not recognize the hand. It's very general, and then this hand and the face are really defined. And so I think one thing that's rarely used in tattooing, but would, like, if you're trying to develop a style, you can steal this. If you start to abstract your foreground and render your background, you would flip tattooing on its head, I think. Nobody does that.
That's a cool idea, yeah. I mean, he obviously had his own idea of that composition and how he was going to play with the viewer's eye and, lead them into the space with this blurry kind of, unfinished edge. And then, I mean, it's about contrast. You've got, your sharp edges, and then you've got your fuzzy, your blurry lines, or your.
Yeah. I'm going to do that. I'm about to change tattooing. You guys stay.
Right on.
I just thought of it right now. That's what I'm going to do.
You just gave it away.
Yeah. Well, I'm 2 weeks ahead of all these people.
All right. So you have 2 weeks to get
2 weeks to get a lot of. You want a tattoo? I need to do something blurry. All right, good.
I have this idea that tattooers look at me and go, "Oh, a blank canvas. Oh." Is that true? Do you?
I mean, if you
know what I
in,
could do with that dude's arm?
No, I mean, if you came in asking to get tattooed, people would be a lot happier that they didn't have to work around something.
Right.
But I think if they just see you in line at Lenny's, they don't say that, like, "Oh, I wish I could get my hands on that guy." Oh. Maybe they say that. I don't know.
I'm in line at Lenny's a lot.
Yeah, that's why I use that. Yeah, I don't think it's quite like that, but definitely it's nice when someone wants a sleeve and there's nothing to work around.
Because I've had a tattoo artist look at me like, "We need to put some sleeves on that guy."
Yeah, was it me?
No, somebody else, and I was like, "Please get away from my arm."
Yeah, you look badass. So we'll try to wrap this up, but I do want to say this. Adam and I have been working on this for this idea that we've discussed tonight, kind of randomly without a lot of purpose. But we've been, with much more purpose, we've been working on this idea of helping people to develop their style within tattooing, or within, really you can plug it into anything, within painting, within illustration. But we have, we pay attention to what you guys ask. And overwhelmingly, both our guests and and our viewers that write in, which we really appreciate, are concerned with finding a voice within tattooing. They feel like it's easy to get swallowed up, and you get into traditional tattoos, you get into Japanese tattoos, and you kind of fall by the wayside because there's a trillion people doing it, and people want to find a way to stand out within tattooing. We both really believe that if you focus on these fundamentals of shape, composition, value, edges, and color, that you build a foundation from which your voice will rise. There's no way for it not to once you understand those things. You have an individual way of making a mark that's as unique as your fingerprint, and whether you're an artist or whether you're not. So what we've done is we're putting together a webinar, and the webinar we believe is going to be on June the 13th. Did I say? I should have looked at that first, shouldn't I?
Yes.
We're going to
Okay.
put it. We're going to put the date of the webinar right here. Sean's going to put the date of the webinar right here. Look at this date. If you're interested in this stuff at all, it'll be maybe 30 or 40 minutes. We're going to get into. It'll be nothing but the nuts and bolts of this with some visual examples. And hopefully it really helps. So I know it'll really help. I'm positive of it because he's a smart guy, and I talk a lot. So between the two of us, how could we go wrong?
Well, we've helped friends of ours with this kind of these ideas. So I mean,
I think it'll work well, and it's our first webinar, so you'll be, you should get a free T-shirt for being on our first webinar. Surely, do we have webinar T-shirts or no? We could get some made. We know people. We know T-shirt people. So anyway, sign up. We'll have a link below this video if you're interested in the webinar. Like I said, 30 or 40 minutes. It doesn't cost you anything except for 30 or 40 minutes of your time. And we'll talk a little bit more about this and help you to kind of get on the road to developing your style. And then maybe we'll offer a little more one-on-one attention after that webinar for a select few people, but not for the entire webinar because there's only 2 of us and we have pictures to draw. Right?
paintings
To paint.
and tattoos to
Tattoos
create.
to tattoo. Go to tattooimprovement.com. Go to abshaw.com and look at his paintings and drawings and illustrations. We've been dropping them through all this, and you've probably seen them before. If you follow my Instagram, you see them all the time. I think I'm your biggest promoter.
I appreciate
promote
that.
you more than you promote you. I'm sure of that.
I think that's true.
That is
yes.
true. So, tattooimprovement.com. Sign up for our newsletter. We just finished an awesome Venice trip. And so right after this episode, all the world's most famous
jealous.
tattooers are going to be on this show together, individually, but one after another. But they were all in the same place at the same time, and we talked to all of them, and they were awesome. And I hope you enjoy that whole series from Venice. And thank you to the Off the Map and Tattoo Now people for inviting us out.
Awesome.
Do you have anything else to say?
It's hot in here.
It is. It's because I have to turn the air conditioner off because of the microphones.
No, I don't. Thank you for having me, sir.
Thank you. Come check out the webinar. That's it.
Awesome.
Good night.
Webinar.
Bye. We have to sit still for a minute.
Oh, we do?
Yeah,
Oh.
just like this. 3, 2,
Can we pretend like we're talking?
1. Yeah. Go.